important presentation on resumes and applicant tracking systems with a fabulous speaker. So while you're logging in, please let us know where you're logging in from and what type of work you might be looking for. You can put that in the chat box. Welcome to our online audience as well as our in-person audience here at the Fayette Cooperative Extension Office in Lexington, Kentucky. For those that are joining us in person, afterwards we'll have some networking opportunities and an opportunity to practice your 30-second commercials for those that are in person. And again, welcome to the Central Kentucky Job Club. We're delighted to have people from all over the state, the country, and sometimes even out of the country joining us. We will begin shortly. For our online audience, be sure and toggle the chat box to everyone so that we can see your comments and that you can participate during our session today. We always love good chat box conversation going on during our presentation. You'll also have an opportunity to use that chat box to send your questions up. Welcome. I'm Caroline Francis, Director of UK Alumni Career Services. Our agenda for today's Job Club is as follows. We'll have some success stories. This is where we want you all to share in that chat box successes that you've had since our last Job Club meeting. We'll have our main speaker. We'll share active job leads. We'll give partner updates, and then we'll give you a sneak peek on what's going to happen next time at Job Club. The mission of the Job Club is to provide a positive environment for job seekers to network and learn best practices for the job search. And if it's been a little while since you've been in the job search, things do change. We meet the second and fourth Tuesday of each month at 9 a.m. And you can find the schedule on ukalumni.net/job club and also through our Extension Partners website. We've been going now for 10 years, and we've had about 10,000 participants. So it's been exciting to see how many people's lives Job Club has benefited. Your facilitation team, again, I'm Caroline Francis. Joining me are Diana Doggett, Extension Specialist, Special Projects, Amanda Shagney, Associate Director of UK Alumni Career Services, and Nicole Waite, who's an employment specialist with UK Steps, and she focuses on temporary employment with UK. Behind the scenes, we also have Christy, Lindsay, Suzanne, and Sunny, all making this happen. So we appreciate everyone that makes this team come together, and thank you for joining us. We are currently in a hybrid format, in person, in the Fayette Cooperative Extension Office here in Lexington, by Zoom webinar, where we'll have a chat moderator available. Also Facebook Live, which is in a view-only format, so there's no chat moderation option on that Facebook Live. You have a resource packet that we've put together of some great information. There's the link on the slide, and that's also included in our follow-up newsletters. Additionally, we want to encourage you to join our LinkedIn group. It's the Central Kentucky Job Club sharing community on LinkedIn. We get a lot of job leads, and we post those on LinkedIn, and we always encourage employers to go post those jobs on our LinkedIn group. Sometimes there's a quick turnaround, so I really encourage all job seekers to be checking that LinkedIn page on a regular basis. Again, we're welcoming you. Lots of people are coming in the door here now at Extension for Live, and we've noticed we have a wonderful crowd online today. So welcome, everyone. I know you're going to have lots of takeaways. Employers and recruiters are always welcome to attend Job Club in person. We will give you a chance to share your job leads from the floor and with our audience. If you're joining us virtually as an employer, at the end, we will give you a 30-second to a minute spotlight to share job leads, active job leads that you might be sourcing for with your company. Watch your email later today. You'll get a newsletter with some job leads that have been sent to us. So watch that later today, and we'll, if you've registered via Zoom or signed in on our sign-in sheet, we'll get you in the system so that you can be alerted to the job leads that have come our way. Please note that some attendees are conducting a confidential job search, so please be respectful of others that you might see their names in the chat or in person. Recordings and PowerPoint slides are available at www.ukalumni.net/job club. Welcome to our first-time attendees. You're going to receive a survey later today asking for feedback, and that will get you in our system so that you get alerted to each of our meetings. We don't want you to miss an opportunity to get some great job search information. Now for success stories. We'd like for you to use the chat box to share success stories, or we'll pass the microphone for those in our live audience today. Success can mean a lot of things. Maybe you've updated your resume or had a coffee meeting. Perhaps you've had an interview. Please let us share, and in your journey, let us know who's had some interviews or anything they want to share that's moved them forward in their job search. Also, when you do land that next position, please email and let us know. We love sharing success stories live from the podium here. And also, when you get into your next position, please let us know when your company has openings. True successes are when we pay it forward and able to continue that cycle of helping others. Any success stories come in? Okay. All right. We'll look forward to getting some more of those next time. Now I'm thrilled to introduce our guest speaker today, Shelly Trent. Shelly is a very respected colleague. She's held many positions in the career field with lots of organizations. She is an amazing content expert on anything job search related, plus a professional speaker that's very sought out for conferences. She teaches classes, runs many professional groups, and I am honored to have Shelly in my network, and we are so fortunate to have her present today for the Job Club audience. Welcome, Shelly, and I know you're going to have lots of takeaways, so have paper and pen or an open page in your computer ready to take notes. Shelly?
Thank you so much, Carolina. I appreciate being with the Job Club today. And my screen. Zoom quit. Okay, hold on. Can you all still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I think it resolved itself. I appreciate the little extra time you gave me there. So again, my name is Shelly. What Caroline said a minute ago is that things have changed in the job search.
Shelly, we are not able to hear you.
Okay, it keeps saying Zoom crashed. So hopefully it's over. It's done it about 5 or 6 times. So I'm really happy to be with you today. What she said was if you haven't looked for a job in a while, things have changed a lot. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is some things that have really changed. I work with clients all the time who they're using a resume that they may have started 5-10 years ago, and they don't know about these things called the ATS, or Applicant Tracking System. I'm not ready to go to those slides yet. Are you? I'm not able to control, I don't think.
That's okay, Shelly. If you want me to control, I can.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay.
I'll let you know when I'm ready to go to the next slide. Sorry for the technical issues. So I wanted you to know about some things that you need to figure out with your resume, how to make them go through the applicant tracking system. A lot of companies use these, even smaller ones, to basically they put in the job description, the posting that you see, and then they put in the resumes, and the machine, the computer matches you up to see if you have the same words and phrases on your resume that are in the job posting. And it's not just a list of keywords, there's some tricks around it. So I want to share that with you today. And consider that your competition is not another applicant necessarily like you might think it is. It's really the applicant tracking system. Okay, you can go to the next one. There we go. Just some facts about the ATS. On average, we're talking about a larger organization. They might receive 250 applications a week. Of those 250, 4 to 6 will be contacted for an interview. 95% of larger organizations use an ATS as part of their screening process. Large companies get 50,000 to 75,000 resumes a week. That's pretty crazy, I know. And the fact is, because of the ATS, 75% or maybe even more of the resumes it takes in will never be seen by human eyes, which is why it's so important for you to get around the applicant tracking system. Okay, the next one. Just a little bit of information here that I wanted to share. This came out around last August. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York did a study and showed that candidates referred by employees were twice as likely to get interviews. So as she said, you know, it's really important to have those connections, because a lot of times the way you will get around the applicant tracking system is by knowing someone on the inside. So if you have a friend who works for a company that you're interested in, make sure that your friend or your connection takes your resume or mentions it to the HR manager or the recruiting manager, because that's one of the best ways to get your foot in the door. Next. Some other information about applicant tracking systems. Again, you don't know if they have an ATS or not. And typically 40 to 50% of employers, I think it's probably more, use some sort of an ATS. 62% of companies using an ATS admit some people are going to get through the cracks. The people who might be qualified, but the HR person doesn't have time to read every resume that's sent in because of the enormous number of applications. Older applicant tracking systems use something called OCR, or ocular character recognition. If you've ever been on a site where a scanner has read like a newspaper or an old paper, you might see that there are some strange characters. Maybe it's an S that looks like another letter, or an O that looks like a C. Well, that's ocular character recognition. It's basically just a scanner that looks at what it can see on a page, and that's what it translates to. And you have to be careful then about using certain fonts, which I'll go over in just a moment. An ATS is set up to judge the applicants exactly to the requirements that are in the posting. So anything extra that you might want to put in your resume, it's not going to matter to the ATS. And I'll talk more about that in a minute as well. And the ATS only knows to match the words that are in the posting. So if you have flowery language or phrases that it doesn't contain, it might not understand what you're trying to say. And some applicant tracking systems are set up to just look at the first page, which is why you want the most important information on the first page. And I'll go into that in more detail as well. They also look for misspelled words, poor grammar, punctuation that doesn't make sense, and they're going to kick out resumes with errors. Next one. Most of the time, as I said, a person's not even going to see your resume until it comes through the ATS and until it meets the computer's criteria. And one of the things that I have read a lot of articles about is that an ATS is smart enough to know that if you just put a list of keywords on your resume at the top, that's not going to work. It wants to see those keywords used in phrases and sentences in your resume so that it sees that you've used those skills, not that just that you're listing the skill. And those keywords can be found in the job posting itself. Try to use the words and phrases that are in the posting. Sometimes if your resume doesn't have all of those words, you're not going to have your resume seen by a human. You want to look for an 85% match between your resume and the job posting. There's a computer software program online or whatever you want to call it. It's called JobScan, and it's jobscan.co, not .com. And it allows you to upload just the text of your resume, just the text of the job posting. It will tell you what match you are. So you're looking for 85% or above. And I think they give you the first 5 scans for free. And it's worth it. Believe me, I've had people who used it who were 50%, they get it up to 85 to 90%, and then they get their resume seen. You want to also follow application instructions to the letter. Now, this is not so much about your resume. This is about the ATS taking in the data you input for an online application. So you know you've done your resume and you upload it, but then it asks you to fill in all these other blanks, dates and whatever. So what it does is it takes the resume that you have put in, it pulls the information over into the ATS, and then it shows you what it has. So if you have something like, your education and you have 3 different schools or something like that, maybe you have a couple of different degrees, make sure that all of those sections of your resume are aligned with what their blanks are in the ATS. You also want to check when it talks about your experience in that, set of boxes in the ATS. You want to make sure that it all looks like it would on a resume, because if you just rely on the program to pull it over, it's not going to necessarily line up and look like a resume. So you might have bullet points, but when it pulls over, it doesn't have bullet points. So you want to make sure that whole thing that your resume has pulled over, you want it to look correct, and you want to follow those application instructions. So if there are sections that you would have to leave blank, at least put something there like not applicable or something, because if you have blanks, sometimes that kicks you out. You also want to name your document with your name. As somebody who's been in HR for a long time, I'll just say that. This is one of the pet peeves that HR people feel. When resumes come in, and we have hundreds of resumes, and they're all named resume.doc, we have to open all of them and change them to your name. So it should be something like Shelly Trent resume, something like that, so that your name is part of the title of the document. I would suggest that you not have something that's called like public relations resume, IT resume. You just want it to be your name and make it simple, because to the reader, that looks like you have a lot of other resumes that, I know that sounds silly, but just for the clarity of the person reading it, just have your name. Next one. Thanks. You also want to keep your formatting simple. ATSs can't really read these beautiful templates that you might have pulled up through Microsoft Word, like with the lines and the boxes and the tables. It can't read those very well. So it's best to just use a blank Word document with text. I know it's not pretty, but it will be very pretty to the ATS. So it can't read symbols. So like if you are using bullets and you've decided to use some sort of symbol as your bullet, like a check mark. Don't do that because it can't read those things. You don't want to have headers and footers. You might have a footer that says your name or something and your contact information on the bottom of the second page. That's okay. But if you have important information, like all of your contact information in a header, that is invisible to the ATS. So do not use a header and footer unless it's information that is not vital for them to read. So don't use templates. You only want to use the normal sections of a resume, like experience, education, skills. If you use sections that are maybe not common, like affiliations, memberships, that can confuse the ATS. And what you'll find is once you've uploaded the information and it pulls it over into the blank form, it might not know where to put that. So just be careful with those. Some of them can't read a PDF, and you won't know if they can or not. Typically, what will happen is once you're uploading your information, it will actually tell you, you can upload your resume in a docx, or a PDF. Then you know you're safe. The best, I think I saw somebody ask the question, if the application says you can do any of them, you can. But if it doesn't tell you, it's safest to do a .doc, not a docx, because you don't know how old the ATS is. The ATS might be 15 years old and it can't read some of those. So just be safe. You also might want to consider putting your resume into a text document, TXT, just to see what it looks like and if there are strange formatting issues that it has. Next slide. It's also important for you to think about the font that you use. Because of that ocular character recognition issue, or some of the older ATS programs can't read the serif fonts as well as they can the sans serif. A serif font has those little edges on the letter, sort of like a little curl. Those are difficult for the ATS to read. Those would be things like Times New Roman, that used to be a very common one. It prefers a sans serif. It can read that more cleanly. So things like Arial, Calibri, Roboto. And you also want to be careful not to use the cute fonts, because you might have fonts on your computer system that the ATS can't read at all. If you're using, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but some newfangled font that's on your newest version of Word, sometimes it might not have a new version of those fonts. Next one. You also want to think about your keywords and phrases. Again, you want to possess at least 85% of the skills or in the requirements before you submit your resume. Sometimes it might not even be pulled until it's 100% match. You don't know how picky they are. And I mentioned customizing each of your resumes each time you apply for a job. I know that's trouble, and you might have already had one resume that's approved by a bunch of people and they've read it, and you know that's your resume, and that's fine. But you want to customize it. You can have that as your template. You want to customize it to match the job posting. So any words and phrases that are in that posting, you want to try to put those into your resume. And again, you can use JobScan to compare. You also want to have a headline or summary statement. We don't use objectives anymore, because typically back in the day when we used objectives, I can tell you as an HR person, almost every one of those objectives said something like this: seeking a position where I can use my skills and education to further the goals of the company. Well, that doesn't really tell me anything as someone who's looking for a new hire. I want to know who you are and what you do. Let me give you just a quick example of that. If you didn't have anything on your resume as a title or a heading, and you had jobs that were in all kinds of different areas. Maybe you've worked in customer service. Maybe you've worked in operations. Maybe you've worked in, I don't know, but 4 or 5 different things. It wouldn't be clear to me what kind of job you wanted or what you felt like you were the best at. So it's important to have a headline statement. And for me, it might be human resources professional and career coach. Something that tells the reader the title of your book. That's what I always call it. And you want to also, in your experience section, focus on things like promotions that you got, results that you obtained, and direct contributions, how you changed the organization because of what you did, and not responsibilities and tasks. They want to see what you've done that will make you a good employee, and not just that you managed a newsletter for the organization. They want to know the details. If you can go to the next one. This is another bit of information that came out not too long ago, and I wanted to share it with you. This is hidden or workers cited the employer criteria that disqualifies them from finding work. So this is just a little tidbit of information. The number of years of experience required, 36% of applicants said this was what kept them from getting the job. Because again, they want you to meet 85% or more of the criteria. Gaps in your resume, something like 7 months without work. Maybe this happened because of COVID. Academic performance, maybe you had a low GPA, but let me tell you, don't put your GPA on your resume unless it's really great. Vocational credentials like certificates and certification, progression in your career. Maybe it looks like you've had a good job and then you've not had such a good job. After that, they wonder, why did you take a step back or down? So some of these things, I'm not going to go through all of them, but these were some reasons that people said they were disqualified from getting a job. If you go to the next one. If you have acronyms on your resume, for instance, my husband's in IT, and when he had me review his resume years ago when he looked for a job, I said, the HR person's not going to know what any of this means. The IT person might, but the HR person might not. And so if you have an acronym, even if it's something like MBA or BA, sometimes the ATS, if the person inputting the data has on their BA or MBA, you're probably safe to say that on your resume because that's what the machine is looking for. But to be safe, what you want to do is spell out what the acronym stands for and use the abbreviation so that either way, whatever's in the ATS, you'll be covered. And again, ATSs are sophisticated enough that if you're just going to put keywords at the top, it's going to kick you out. Again, I mentioned also not to use an objective. Some options that you might have would be financial analyst, human resources professional, sales associates, marketing and communications manager. So those would be your headings at the top. Next one. Again, and I've mentioned this, and I know it's like I'm harping and I'm on my soapbox, but you have to match your resume to the posting. So let's take a look at a couple of examples here. The requirements that are listed in the ad would say 2 years of experience in marketing. And please do note the apostrophe there. You can say 2 years of experience or 2 years experience with an apostrophe. That's important, because that's correct grammar. So the job posting says create mail promotions, develop brochures, research target audiences, analyze sales figures, create marketing plans, maintain database of customers, take calls from customers, and resolve issues. Well, that's pretty simple, and you can use those words in your resume. If you go to the next one, I'm going to tell you from the HR point of view an even better way to do this. If your resume says 2 years experience in retail and restaurants, type letters to send to clients, helped with newsletter to mail to our customers, performed data entry to maintain client lists, created flyers about our products, attended and took minutes of sales meetings. And yes, that matches what the posting says, but you need to give it some punch. You need to let the HR person or the reader know more detail. And this is how you write what we in the career coaching world and HR world call accomplishment statements. And you've probably heard of those, and they're not always easy to write, but I'm going to tell you how to do it. So you just want to give them, I always say, the who, what, why, where, when, how many, how much. All of that information creates an accomplishment statement. An accomplishment statement doesn't mean that you have to have been promoted or won awards. This is how you do it. 2 years experience in the retail and restaurant industries resolving customer issues. Now we get to the meat here. Produce company newsletter on our products and services that was sent to 10,000 customers per quarter. That's a lot better than just saying helped with newsletter to mail to our clients. Maintained client list of over 50,000 in database, ensured contact information was consistently updated, merged mailing lists into our database. Promoted company products through creation of 4 marketing pieces per month. Attended sales, marketing, staff meetings, and gained knowledge of analyzing sales figures. Now, that's not a lot of difference, but to the reader, it really is, because it gives them an idea when you just say typed letters to send to clients. How many? What type of letters? What kind of data entry did you do? What kind of flyers did you create? That is making it an accomplishment statement. Next one. You also have to be careful with spelling, grammar, and word use. This is why we say have your resume read by a lot of different people to make sure you've covered all your bases. They are set up to know when you've misspelled a word, when there are typos, and sometimes they have it set up because they have so many applications. One error can mean it's not viewed by a person. They've been told what to look for, and here's one thing that's tricky, I will say, because they've been told or they've been fed the information from the posting. And this is a pet peeve of mine. If there are typos in the posting that's in the ATS is what the ATS is looking at as what the correct words are. So if you have some words in yours that are correct and what's in the job description is incorrect, that could be a problem. I would hope that they would have it set so that it would accept some of those things, but some of them can't distinguish between things like front end with a dash and front end without a dash, or Master of Business Administration, Masters with an S, Masters with an apostrophe S, and MBA. And you won't necessarily know that. And sometimes they're set up to know titles like project manager versus program manager. So you want to be careful and use the exact phrasing as in the posting. Next one. So here's a list of some action verbs. I'm sure you've probably heard this before, but you want every line of your resume to have a different action verb. You don't want to use the same ones over and over, handled, managed, coordinated, over and over. There are lists of hundreds of these action verbs online. One site is the Ladders, one site is the Muse. I'm sure that the UK Job Club Center has some of these, but make sure that you are using action verbs at the beginning of every one of your lines, and don't use I, me, my, mine, my responsibilities included. That's just superfluous words. And again, don't use check marks, stars, or symbols. You just want to use bullets that are set up in Word. Next one. I think I've already talked about all of these. Go ahead. Next one. I get ahead of myself. If you've never heard of Liz Ryan, I suggest you follow her on LinkedIn. She used to be an HR VP, Fortune 50, and she has all kinds of career information on her LinkedIn site, on her website. And this is something that she put out a while back, and I totally agree with it. These are boilerplate phrases that can kill your resume. Things like results-oriented professional, cross-functional teams, strong work ethic, met or exceeded expectations, all of those types of things, team player. It doesn't mean anything unless you back it up with proof on your resume. They're not going to say, well, that says they're a team player, so I'll ask them about that in the interview. You need to prove that you're a team player on the resume. And also, I'm going to plug Brad Karsh, a friend of mine who is very well known, has written books, and he has a book called Confessions of a Recruiting Director. It's a great book. And he says anyone can write that he or she is a hard worker, but those kind of statements are worthless to the reader because you don't give me any proof. Next one. Some examples of how to do that would be actually giving me an example of how you're a team player. I thought I had a slide on this, but maybe it's in a second. So you can say worked on cross-functional team of 10 to produce report on whatever the topic is, 10 days before the deadline, things like that. So you are going to give me examples of how you worked on a team. So I hope that's helpful to you. Again, 50% of resumes are never read. And here's the truth. You have about 10 seconds, more like 5 seconds, to impress the reader to go on. 6 seconds is the average. The person's initial glance, this is once you get in front of them. They look at your job titles, where you worked, your start and end dates, and your education. So make sure those are easy for the person, the reader, to find. Some quotes from recruiters. The resumes that caught my attention were the ones with specific measures of success. And those are those accomplishment statements that give details. Another quote, it's a highly subjective process. So I advise people to be clear, concise, organized, and put the most important stuff on the top of their resume so the reader can find it. Next. And again, we talked about accomplishment statements, but I want to give you some more examples. And these are just like quick down and dirty ones. So one might say, provided excellent customer service. And you have no idea how many times I have seen this on a resume. But that doesn't tell me anything because anyone can write that. A better example, I'm just going to go down to the best one, recognized by supervisor for tactful dealings with difficult customers, received award for having the highest customer satisfaction rating for the quarter. Again, you don't have to have an award, but it's nice to say you were recognized by your supervisor. You might think back about examples of things your supervisor said positive on your either quarterly, bi-yearly, or yearly performance review. Next one. Another one I see a lot, trained employees. Well, what did you train them on? How many were there? So here's an example. Developed customer service training program and presented it to 100 staff members over a 6-month period, resulting in a 110% increase in customer satisfaction levels. That gives me a lot of information. It tells me maybe what you're an expert in. It tells me how many people you've delivered training to. It tells me what the training, how the training impacted the organization. Next one. Another one, used accounting software. Well, how about taught self and others to use QuickBooks and set up computer-based bookkeeping system for small business with over 300 accounts. That gives me the accomplishments. Next one. So when you're thinking about this, you want to think about how did you set yourself apart? What did you do that made you do this job better than anyone else? How did you make it your own? How did you get promoted? How did you impress your boss? What were problems and challenges you faced that you overcame? What were the results of your efforts? How did you change things in your department, your company? How did you leave your employers better than before you worked for them? So think about ways that you've helped your organization make money, save time, make work easier, solve a problem, be more competitive, build relationships, expand the business, attract new customers, or retain existing customers. Next one. Keep in mind that a resume is a self-marketing tool. It is with the goal of getting you an interview. It's your advertisement. What really bothers me sometimes when I'm working with clients is people will just throw a resume together and send it in. They're not careful about it. They don't think it through very carefully. But if you think about it, your resume is the most important document in your life, because it's going to help you feed your family. It's going to help you have a place to live or buy a car or pay your insurance. It's so important to your well-being and your financial state in life. It really is so important, but some people just kind of quickly throw one together and send it in. And that's probably why maybe you're not getting as many interviews as you hoped, but you really have to make it targeted to the job that you're seeking. It should market your relevant skills, knowledge, and accomplishments. And again, it should be developed, a separate one should be developed for every separate application. And I know that's a lot of trouble, but it will be worth it in the end. Next one. If you have a lot of experience, you can have a 2-page. I think I've been in the workforce for over 30 years, but I still have a 2-page resume. If you have maybe fewer than 10 years of experience, you'd want a 1-page. I've seen, and this is from one of my colleagues in HR, I've known him for many, many years, but when he was looking for a position, he sent his resume out to a lot of HR people and said, pass this along if you know of any jobs. And he was a VP level, but it was 12 pages long and had everything he'd ever done on it. And to me, that's very braggy or overdone, or, nobody's going to take the time to read all that. And he, as an HR person, should have known he probably doesn't want to read a 12-page resume. So I wasn't sure about that. But, 1 to 2 pages is what you should think about. You want to, again, highlight skills and accomplishments that are related to what the employer wants, and you can exclude things that don't matter. And let me actually talk about that for a second. I used to, when I was first out of college, I had my first career in law enforcement. And when I decided to make a change to HR, the people who were going to read my resume in HR don't care about that experience. It doesn't make any difference to them whether I, had a, shooting training or any of that. They don't care. So that's irrelevant information. I instead put the information on my HR resumes that related to that job. So I could talk about providing to the probationers career advice and helping them with the resume, helping them get a GED. So keeping confidential records. So I focused my resume only on what the reader cared about, because it's taking up space that you could use on something else. Go ahead, next one. You want your resume to be a funnel. Remember what it said a minute ago about making sure the most important information is at the top. So think about that. Make sure that you have your heading, and if you think education is more important to the company, you can put that first. If you think experience is more important, you can put that first. And then you want to go down the list with things that support it but aren't the most important. And I'll give you an example of this as well. I worked with someone, oh gosh, it's been a long time ago, but he sent me his resume. He had a master's in HR and he'd had a lot of experience in HR. And he sent me his resume and said, can you take a look at this? Because I am not getting any interviews, any contact, nothing. So I looked at his resume. He did not have any kind of statement at the top to say what he was looking for. So it just started with experience. And his current job was a soccer coach. And I thought, well, there you go. I'm not even going to read farther than that. I'm thinking, how did this resume for soccer coach get into my HR manager pile? People aren't going to read any further than that. They're going to assume this is the wrong resume. If you read farther down, like half the page down, he talked about his HR experience a couple of jobs ago, and his education was at the bottom. So I helped him rearrange it. Education can be at the top, relevant experience comes next, and with his HR function, and then other experience can come later down the resume. But you want the most important stuff to be at the top. Next one. Again, they receive hundreds of resumes for every opening, and they're looking for ways to weed people out so they don't have to read through. So if you don't fill in all the blanks in the form, or you have a typo, they're not going to give you the benefit of the doubt and pull it out anyway. The machine is going to tell them what to read. So again, I want to say the best way to get your resume on the other side is knowing someone, a colleague or a friend who works on the inside through networking. Next one. Just a little bit of information I think I wanted to share with you. More than 90% of employers, and I say it might be more than that now, are using some form of social media. I will tell you that for me, once I have my final 10 resumes or final 5 resumes in front of me that I'm going to choose to interview from those candidates, I'm going to immediately look at their LinkedIn page. I want to make sure that the information on the resume matches what's on LinkedIn. Are they leaving things out? Or is it different information? Because people scam now. And so I want to make sure that what's on your resume matches what's on LinkedIn. And recruiters find that reading resumes is the least preferred method. I will tell you that my husband used to be a technical recruiter, and he never posted any jobs. What he did was he would go on LinkedIn, because there are special functions for recruiters in LinkedIn. He would go there and he would look for the criteria that he wanted. And he would personally call those people or contact those people directly to say, you meet all of the criteria for this position. Are you interested in talking with me further? Never posted anything. So you want your LinkedIn page, and that's a whole other topic. You want it to be just as good as your resume. You want to have as much information on there as possible. I can tell you as a recruiter, when I go in to a LinkedIn page and it's barely there, it has a couple of job titles and not much other information, I'm pretty disappointed. I feel like if you're looking for a job, your LinkedIn page needs to be updated and really good. Your LinkedIn page is a free way for you to market yourself, because if you have 5 years of experience and you have one-page resume, your LinkedIn page can give so much more detail than you can put on a page or two. So for every 10 minutes you spend on your resume, spend at least as long, maybe even an hour on your LinkedIn page. You want it to be great, because that's where most recruiters are looking. They're not necessarily posting jobs. And 73% of recruiters have hired someone who was introduced to them or they discovered them through social media. Next one. Proof in your accomplishments. Employers want to see proof of things like leadership, communication, organization, problem solving, teamwork, creativity, and technical skills. So again, you want to give accomplishment statements as examples. So if you're talking about communication skills, rather than just say excellent communication skills, give them examples of how you've used communication skills. Maybe talk about how many presentations you've delivered and on what topics. Maybe talk about times you've had to deliver an annual report or a monthly report or even a weekly report in front of your team. Anything like that that can give examples. Maybe you've had to write an SOP manual. Any kind of examples that you can give will help the reader understand that you really do have excellent communication skills. Teamwork. I gave an example of that a few minutes ago. Show how you've worked on a team. How many projects have you done on a team? How successful were those? Go ahead for the next one. And I see questions popping up, but I'll get back to those in just a second. Here's another little tidbit. If a posting says they require 10 years of experience in accounting, but your resume shows that you have 5 in accounting and 5 in bookkeeping, the ATS will not understand that that's really 10 years in accounting, because it might not have bookkeeping even in the posting. So it's really important to use the correct words and phrases. Another thing I will tell you is job titles sometimes can be strange. So if the job posting says they're looking for advisor, and you've been a specialist, you can always put advisor and consultant. Or if they are looking for a specialist or a consultant, you can say specialist and consultant. You're not really lying. You're trying to tell it that was part of your role. And if that's the title that it's looking for, 12 years as a consultant, you can use that in your title. So I could say HR professional and consultant, or I could say, make sure I used consultant in the headings of my job experience. Next one. Of course, you want to start with the most recent. You'd be surprised lately how many times I've gotten resumes that start with things 10 years ago and they go forward in time. You want your most recent one to be at the top and go backward in time. You also want to offer them your job title, the organization's name, the city and the state. And if it's unclear from the company name what type of industry it is, you can name it. Don't abbreviate the company name or use abbreviations in your descriptions. Like I mentioned, spell it out and use the abbreviation at the same time. If you've been promoted, let's say you've worked for Humana, you've been there 20 years, and you've been promoted in 10 different positions. Make sure you say promoted to the above position, and it'll show that although you may have had quite a few jobs, you were always promoted. It wasn't because you were a job hopper. And you want to list the responsibilities when you're listing your accomplishment statements and what you've done. List them in order of the value to the future employer. Use the job description to figure out what things they think are the most important. You don't want your most important thing or the number one thing to be the thing that's at the bottom of their list. Go ahead. Next one. Now, this is important too. We used to put our whole address on resumes, and we don't have to do that anymore. So all you have to say is Lexington, Kentucky area, Louisville, Kentucky area. And it doesn't matter what your address is. These days, people have Google Maps, and it's none of their business where you live. If they feel like you live in a really rich neighborhood, they might say, well, we can't afford this person because they live in a mansion. It's nobody's business. So you can just give the city. You want to also give a number where you can be reached during the day, but not your work number. It is way against the rules. It's really bad for you to take work or job search calls in your work, or to give your work number or use your work email address on your resume. Those are big no-nos. And if you have your cell phone or whatever number you use on your resume, make sure that there's a professional sounding message. I've actually talked to HR people who have not left a message for somebody they wanted to interview because their voice message sounded too casual. Like, what's up? You know what to do. I know that was one of them that somebody told me. So make sure that you have a good message. If you have an email address that's not professional, you can make one for free that is your first and last name. Mine is Shelly, Trent at live.com. You know, I could have one that says something totally goofy, like tattoo man, dog lover, I play guitar. You can't even believe some of the email addresses I have seen. And I'm not going to interview those people if they're not smart enough to figure out how to do a free email account and be professional on a resume. Next one. Also, be careful with capitalization. You want to be consistent, and you want to make sure that you're capitalizing proper nouns and not just words that you think should be capitalized. So here's some examples. I hold a Bachelor of Science degree in business because that's an official title, but you wouldn't say I have a bachelor's degree and capitalize as bachelor's because that's not a formal title. I took classes in accounting, business, and communications. None of those are official titles of a class, so you don't need to capitalize. Go ahead to the next one. I need to get through here and look at the questions. You don't have to put the word resume at the top. It's pretty obvious what it is. Don't put a photo or any pictures or logos on it. I know there are beautiful resumes out there that have that, but if you have the ATS, it's probably not going to be able to read those and it's going to get confused. You don't have to put anything personal on it. It used to be that people would put their religious information or how many kids they had or their hobbies. None of that goes on. Only the professional information about the job. You don't need to list reasons for leaving or your salary. And again, don't use a lot of different underline and italics and fonts and this and that. And you never want to put on there anything about organizations you belong to that are religious or political in nature. Next one. So let me go to the questions. Okay, let me scroll back up here. I think some people wanted to get the slides, and I think that you all will handle that. Okay, let's see here. The safest resume, I think I answered that, would be Doc. Let's see here. If a company is not using an ATS, is it a disadvantage to have a resume that can be scanned? Well, you'll never know if they have an ATS or not. So it's always safer to pretend that they do. Just in case they're using, they could have not an ATS, but something that does scan them, like the ocular character recognition. So I would always assume that there's going to be an ATS. Time gaps. what I would recommend is that instead of using the month and the year, you just use the year. So if you have been out of work because of COVID for 6 or 8 months, you know, if you use 2020 to 2022, that you worked someplace rather than, you know, April of 2022 and you didn't get another job until December, it's safe to do just the year, and that's okay. I'm also doing somebody else's resume right now, and she took time off to be a stay-at-home mom. She had a side business of doing crafts and selling shirts and stuff like that. So I helped her do her resume and said, you know, that she was the owner of this craft business and a stay-at-home mom. And I talked about, you know, all the things she did with her craft business. So you can do that as well. Let's see here. Write a resume to highlight existing and transferable skills. I kind of talked about that with my background from law enforcement to HR. So what you want to do is, I always tell people, look up about 10 job postings for things you think you would want to do, and pay attention to all of the words and phrases. You can even put it in an Excel spreadsheet. You know, what are the words that are used in every one of those postings, or the phrases that are used in most of the postings? Does it require a certain degree? Does it require a certain certification? And find out what is the expectation of the employers with those job openings, and try to make your resume fit what they're asking for, even if it is a transferable skill. If you had a professional volunteer position, I'm gonna have to make this bigger to read it. Let's see here. Trouble with my screen. You had a professional volunteer position during the gap. You can absolutely put your volunteer work on there. I know I'm a volunteer, and I volunteer on a lot of different boards, and I put that on my resume and on my LinkedIn page. And because sometimes volunteer work you're learning so much, and you're learning new skills, you're practicing skills. Absolutely, you can put volunteer information. If you're customizing your resume for each position you're applying for, how can you make sure your resume matches what's on LinkedIn? Like I said, LinkedIn gives you space to put everything out there. So if your resume is one page and your LinkedIn can be as much as you want. For me, I put all the articles I've published. I put, you know, my coursework. I put so much more on my LinkedIn page than what's on my resume. So that's okay. That's expected. Can you use a work email address if you're applying to a job in the same company? I think that would be fine. I know a place I used to work, we fired someone who was looking for a job on company time, and had her resume saved on her work computer. So, you know, you can be fired for that sort of thing. Here's my contact information, shellytrent@live.com. I am an HR professional and career coach, and would be happy to take additional questions. I'm going to go ahead and, oh, I know Christy has to take my screen off. So whatever you have to do to get to the next slide. There we go. Oops. Any other questions? Okay. Caroline? I don't see anybody speaking here, so.
Thank you so much. What an amazing presentation today. Those here in person were taking notes, as well as, you know, talking among themselves, and we've just gained so much, and we appreciate it. Thank you again. Can we give her a gratitude? I'm sure you're going to do that online as well. Nicole, are you going to take us home on the presentation today?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you see me? Okay, there we go. All right, sorry about that. It's a little back noise there, but if you guys can hear me, I just want to say thank you for attending Job Club and thank you, Shelly, for that great presentation. And I'm not sure if we have any employers either in the audience or online. If so, feel free to share any job leads that you may have. And if you don't have any today or at this moment, you can certainly share them with us today at jobclub@uky.edu. And we'll be sure to share that in the newsletter. Okay, looks like we do have someone with a hand raised. Christy, not sure if that's a question.
You didn't have to get there an hour
Yep, I'm gonna give her speaking abilities. So Caroline, you should be able to unmute and ask her question now.
Nobody's expecting a speech here. Hello, everyone. My name is Jared Wilcox. I'm with Actilent here in Lexington. We're an engineering services and talent solutions company. I've worked with Caroline for a number of years, and we've partnered with Job Club over the years too with working with individuals. But our company is always in need of technical personnel and engineers. So we have various positions around Central Kentucky and beyond. If you're looking outside of Kentucky, hopefully everyone will stay here in Kentucky. But you know, I'll be sitting in the back if anybody wants to come talk to me. I can try to connect you with the right resources on our end that may be of some service. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Once again, if there's any employers or if you just don't have the information at this time, but you're in attendance, feel free to share that with us at jobclub@uky.edu.
Yeah.
Okay. So Job Club facilitators, news and programs. See here, we have next. Okay, our Fayette County Corporate Extension Office. And it's actually in the building that you're in. Well, that the presentation has been presented in today at the Fayette County Corporate Extension Office at 1140 Harry Stokes Highway. And feel free to go online there to look at all the different resources and classes that are scheduled there. It's a great time to get together by yourself or with the kids to come out and have some fun and learn some new things about agriculture, baking, and things like that.
Oh, we're getting with your audio. Take it from Academy. Okay.
Okay. Can you? Okay. Are you going to take over, Diana?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So we do want to remind you that your extension office in all 120 counties throughout Kentucky they are available for you for all kinds of programs, volunteer services, and we want you to check out their winter and coming up spring programs, and we know you'll benefit. So here at the Fayette County office, you're welcome to come in and check out their assistance and programs that might help you even in your job search. We also want to remind you that there are updates from UK STEPS, and Nicole will probably, or she will be, giving those to us, and we can submit those to you in the email newsletter that will arrive later on this afternoon. And she has an amazing amount of job opportunities at UK through temporary employment. And we find that a lot of our attendees benefit from this and go on to even permanent positions. So check out those job leads later on today in the newsletter. UK Alumni Career Services, they are always available for you, and you can see that there are an array of services that can be provided. So if you're in need of specific information and guidance, then you can check out those services and they will be available to you. Next time at Job Club, February 28th, it will be on current economic and workforce trends. What better time to discuss this issue as things seem to be evolving almost daily in our workforce. So Ryan Keffenberger is a senior associate with finance and Workforce Development with the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education. So we are just really privileged to have him take some time out and share with us his projections and what he feels like will be we will be facing not only Kentucky, but nationally. So we hope that you'll register at www.ukalumni.net/job club. So until then, on behalf of UK Alumni Association, Cooperative Extension, as well as HR Temporary Employment, we thank you for joining us and we look forward to you being with us again on February 28th. Have a great Valentine's Day.